Build creative confidence. Beat the inspiration addiction. Join the Writer's Gym. So I was telling you about the person who had never understood show don't tell and then did. And in talking about show don't tell, in talking about how show don't tell means that we present the evidence. We don't expect people to take our word for it, as in, my friend is such a bitch, say, or my colleague is such a bitch. We show that person being that way in a variety of behaviours, and then the reader goes, oh my God, they're a bitch. And you've done your job in a way that you couldn't have done your job by telling us instead of showing us. A phrase that comes up a lot for me when talking about show don't tell and why it works is another of the great writing phrases, trust your reader. And it struck me hearing that person say they'd never understood show don't tell until we did our exercises in the workshop, that's another one that could potentially be a bit confusing, because we're not sitting there not trusting our reader. It's not that we don't want a reader. We're writing, for goodness sake. We are familiar with the concept of somebody reading it, even if that's us or whether it's going to be an audience in the future. We get that there is a reader. So what's all this about trusting or not trusting them? And it's a really, really, really powerful question, because in the end, I think it is a bit like the control of telling someone rather than showing them. When you tell the reader, this is a goodie, this is a baddie, this person is narcissistic and lecherous, and this person is quietly heroic and modest, you can show us behaviour that makes us feel that way, and we truly will feel that way. But if you need to say it, then something's missing. And trusting your reader is hard, because it begins with trusting yourself to share that sensory information in the first place. So I want you to picture somebody you absolutely adore or absolutely can't stand. You don't need to have met them. You can take your pick from the news, or you can take your pick from your personal life or the music that you love. But take an example in your head of somebody that you absolutely adore or absolutely can't stand, and show me why they matter in that way. For example, their facial expression, the way that you describe their facial expression as they say a certain thing, is not going to be the same as the way somebody who feels differently describes them. Maybe you've experienced this in real life when somebody in your family has a different political view from you and they interpret certain people on the world stage differently to you. You've probably experienced that this is true, and it can be really difficult. But the thing with fiction and memoir and truthful writing is it's not about objective right or wrong. I, for example, have been in love with Paul McCartney since I was 10 years old. It doesn't mean you have to be, but if I describe Paul McCartney artistically or personally, if somebody else described somebody that I'm not into that way, we will hear what the connection is. We will hear what we respect, what we like, what we admire, what captures our imagination, and let that happen with the five senses. It won't be adjectival. It won't be adverbial. It'll be specific. Tell me about what they're doing, what they're saying, and we will feel how that affects you. So an exercise for trusting your reader is to tell your truth. I don't need to agree with it to understand it, to be moved by it. And therefore, here's the clever bit. Tell your truth and then fictionalize it. I mentioned I've been in love with Paul McCartney since I was 10. I then ran off with David Bowie, as we know. But Paul McCartney was there first. Now, let's say that I wrote what it is that I find in the way that he talks and the way he is in the world, or indeed the way the songs are, whatever I happen to choose. And let's say that I fictionalise that. So I might change any aspect. I might change the musical style, the gender, the era, the anything. But I'm keeping my sense of what is true and putting it in another character. So if you would like to read an example of that I think is so worth looking at, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid is inspired by the story of Fleetwood Mac. It isn't the story of Fleetwood Mac, but it's a lot of the emotional truth of the story of Fleetwood Mac and of the era and the sexual politics and the astounding music that was coming out of that situation was the inspiration. But the reality, if you will, the result is not the inspiration. The result, Daisy Jones and the Six, is entirely its own thing, which then went and inspired its own music, which you can listen to from the book that became the series. So the emotional truth and your relationship with that thing or that idea can become its own artistic product. It can become more than it started. So, fictionalize a real feeling. Pick somebody you love, or somebody who just makes you despair, somebody you have a strong feeling for, and fictionalize that situation and keep that emotional truth. And the more of it you get in, the more of it the reader will take out. Trusting your reader means it's not about dignity. It's not about clearly defined edges and telling them you're right. There's no closeness between friends who do that. And there's no closeness between reader and writer unless we are prepared to use our truthful, unique emotions and reactions as what we know the reader is really there for.
You've visited the Writer's Gym with author and coach Dr. Rachel Knightley. Production and sound design are by Ashley Lexine, and theme music is by Chris Gregory. To join a Writer's Gym workout online or in London, as a guest or as a member, visit writersgym.com or email thewritersgym@rachelknightley.com.